Yo, what's going on, everyone? Today we're learning Daf Nun Beis of Masechta Berachos. I hope everybody got a good night's sleep last night. Hope you had a few coffees this morning. Got your thinking caps all charged up on 100%. You're going to need all of those things today. Good night's sleep, few cups of coffee, fully charged thinking cap on your head, strapped on, ready for business. Because this page means business. So we're going to start off today with some stuff about the order of Birkat Hamazon and benching. Do you need to do it a la kos and besamim and ner, things like that? A little bit confusing. We do get into over there a very interesting halacha about something called pagum, which is a halacha that has to do with kosher bracha, which is interesting. So we'll get to that, and then we get really into our first deep dive with Tumah and Tahara. Tumah and Tahara has come up a few times throughout our learning together, and I've always kind of pushed it off and said we're going to get to it in the 8th parak. Well, we've gotten to it in the 8th parak. It's like a real deep dive into Tumah and Tahara, not just even Tumah Tahara d'oraisa, Tumah and Tahara midur abanan, which is kind of you have to really understand Tumah and Tahara d'oraisa in order to get to Tumah and Tahara d'abanan, which is interesting. And then just some interesting stuff about Havdalah at the end over there. So, that's that. So I hope you're all excited, and let's jump in. So we're on Daf Nun Beis Amud Aleph, all the way at the top. There's some bird that's making some noise. It's a little bit distracting to me, but hopefully not distracting enough, and hopefully it'll find another place to sing, even though it's really beautiful. Okay, Nun Beis Amud Aleph, 2 lines into the page. V'savi Beis Shammai de Birkas Hayom Adifa. So if we look at the Mishnah, so Beis Shammai said that, right, first you make the bracha on the Yom, and then you make a bracha on the Yain. So for example, if you're making Kiddush on Friday night, so first you're going to say the bracha of Mekadesh HaShabbos, and then you're going to make the bracha of Borei Pri Hagafen. So the Gemara is questioning that. V'savi Beis Shammai de Birkas Hayom Adifa. Does Beis Shammai really hold that the bracha on the day, so let's say on Shabbos would be Mekadesh HaShabbos, that takes precedence over the bracha on wine? Ve'atanya anichnas lebeis of Motzoi Shabbos. So we have a brayso that says that somebody goes into his house on Motzoi Shabbos, mivarech al yain. Okay, so what he does is first he makes a bracha on the wine, okay, vala ma'or, then he makes a bracha on borei me'or ha'esh, right, on the light, vala besamim, then on the fragrance of borei minei besamim, v'achar kach omer havdalah. And then at the end, he says the bracha of Havdalah. So we see that in this brisa, we're saying that first you make a bracha on the wine, and then at the end you make a bracha on the Havdalah, which is very similar to what we do, the only difference being that we would do besamim before the light. Now, if at his home he only has one glass of wine, so if he only had one glass of wine, and I guess he was eating, so then he would say Berachos Hamazon first, and then after Berachos Hamazon, he would do all those other brachas, right? He would make the bracha on wine, and then Moreh Ha'esh, Borei Minei Besamim, and then Havdalah. Okay, and the assumption here in the Gemara is that this brisa is Beis Shammai, and we're saying that first you make a bracha on the wine, and only at the end you make a bracha on Havdalah, so it would sound like he would do the wine before the Yom. So the Gemara says, well, why are we assuming that this brisa is Beis Shammai? Maybe it's Beis Hillel. Okay? So the Gemara says, Lo sakadaitech. Don't think that it's Beis Hillel. How come? How come it can't be Beis Hillel? Dikatani ma'or v'achar kach besamim. Because it says that first he's making a bracha on the light, okay, on the candle, and then he's making a bracha on the besamim. Now, if you look back at our Mishnah, right, so our Mishnah says, Beis Shammai omim ner umazon besamim v'havdalah, Beis Hillel omim ner u'besamim mazon v'havdalah. That in our Mishnah, both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel say that ner is going to come first, that the candle is going to come first. Okay, so clearly, the Gemara right now, when it says that it has to be Beis Shammai because we're saying that you're making a bracha first on the light, okay, that's weird because in our Mishnah, both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel say that the bracha on the candle, i.e. the light, comes first, okay? This is going to come up in a minute, but just to point that out, that in our Mishnah, both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel say that the bracha on the light comes first. But the Gemara says that this brisa that we're quoting here in our Gemara cannot be Beis Hillel because the brisa is saying that first you're going to make a bracha on the light, on the candle, and then only afterwards you're going to make a bracha on the besamim. Uman shamasle to isle haisvara, and who is the one that says that first you make a bracha on the light and then you make a bracha on the besamim? Beis Shammai. It's Beis Shammai Detanya, as we learn in another brisa. Rabbi Yehuda, says Rabbi Yehuda, Lo nechleku Beis Shammai uBeis Hillel ala mazon shebatchila v'al havdalah shehi basof. Interesting. So Rabbi Yehuda says that both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel agree that the first bracha that you're going to make is Berachos Hamazon, and the last bracha that you're going to make is going to be a Havdalah. So that's already different from our Mishnah, because in our Mishnah, both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel agree that the first bracha you make is on the candle, and that the last bracha that you make is on Havdalah. Okay? Whereas Rabbi Yehuda is saying in this brisa that they both agree that the first thing that you do is Berachos Hamazon, and the last thing that you do is Havdalah. Okay, fine. Aman nechleku. According to Rabbi Yehuda, what do Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel argue about? Ala ma'or v'ala b'samim, right? With regard to the order of the bracha on the candle versus the bracha on the fragrance, bremine b'samim. Shebeis Shammai omrim ma'or v'achar kach b'samim. That Beis Shammai say that first you make a bracha on the candle and then on the b'samim. Ubeis Hillel omrim b'samim v'achar kach ma'or. Whereas Beis Hillel says first you make a bracha on the b'samim and then you make a bracha on the candle. So therefore, the Gemara wants to say that since we're saying in our brisa that we're quoting here in our Gemara, that he makes a bracha on the wine and then on the candle and then on the besamim, so that must be that brisa is Beis Shammai, because Beis Shammai says, at least according to Rabbi Yehuda, that first you would make a bracha on the candle and then the besamim, whereas Beis Hillel would say first you would make a bracha on the besamim and then the candle. So the Gemara says, well, how do we know that this brisa is according to Rabbi Yehuda? Maybe this brisa is like our Mishnah, where everyone says that the first thing is the candle and the besamim comes afterwards. So why are we assuming that this brisa in our Gemara is Beis Shammai, and according to the way that Rabbi Yehuda learns the machlokas Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel? Dilma Beis Hillel hi v'aliba d'Rabbi Meir. Maybe it's Beis Hillel hi. What about the fact that we're saying that the bracha on the candle comes first? Well, maybe it's like the way that Rabbi Meir, i.e. our Mishnah, learns the machlokas between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. That according to the way that Rabbi Meir, i.e. our Mishnah, learns it, so both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel would say that the candle comes first and afterwards the besamim. So maybe here also, when it says that he comes home and first he makes the bracha on the wine and then he makes the bracha on the candle, then he makes the bracha on the besamim, maybe that's Rabbi Beis Hillel's opinion, according to the way that Rabbi Meir learns the machlokas Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. And therefore, it would make sense to say that you're making a bracha on the wine first, and you're making a bracha on Havdalah at the end, because Beis Hillel says first you're Mekadosh on the yain, then you're Mekadosh on the yom. Lo sakadaitech. The Gemara says no, don't think that. Dikatane hacha b'masnisin, because it says in our Mishnah, the beginning of the 8th parak, Beis Shammai omrim ner umazon b'samim v'Havdalah, that it says in our Mishnah that Beis Shammai says that you would make a bracha first on the candle, and then on Berachos Hamazon, and then besamim, and then Havdalah. Beis Hillel omrim ner u'besamim mazon v'Havdalah. That first you make a bracha on the candle, then you make a bracha on the besamim, then you make a bracha on Berachos Hamazon, then Havdalah. V'hasan b'brisa katani, and it says in the brisa, im ein lo ela kos echad manicho la'achar Hamazon, u'mishalshalan kulan la'acharav. Yet in the brisa in our Gemara, it says that if he only has one glass of wine, so what does he do? So he says Berachos Hamazon first, and then he says the rest of the brachas after that. And who's the one who says, right? If we had to choose between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, who's the one that would say that Berachos Hamazon comes first? Rabbi Yehuda, right? According to Rabbi Yehuda, he says that both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel agree that Berachos Hamazon comes first and Havdalah comes last. And the only thing that they argue about is the ordering of the besamim and the ner. So Shma Mina, Beis Shammai v'aliba d'Rabbi Yehuda. So we see that it must be that our brisa in our Gemara that says that first he says Berachos Hamazon, and at the end he says Havdalah, right, when he only has one cup. And he's saying that the order of the ner versus besamim is that ner comes first and then besamim. That must be that is Beis Shammai's opinion, according to the way that Rabbi Yehuda learns the machlokas between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Uminkom makom kasha, and nonetheless, and that being the case, we have our question now, which is that if this brisa is indeed Beis Shammai, well then how come he's saying that the first bracha that he makes is on the wine, and the last bracha that he makes is on the Havdalah. I thought that Beis Shammai's opinion was that you make a bracha on the Yom first and the wine after. So the Gemara answers, Kasavi Beis Shammai, Shiny Iyula Yoma Me'apuke Yoma. So Beis Shammai holds that that there's a distinction between when Shabbos is starting versus when Shabbos is ending. Ayule Yoma, when Shabbos is beginning, so Kama Demakdeminan Le Adif. That when Shabbos is starting, so we want to do the Kiddush Hayom first, right? We want to say Mekadosh Shabbos first. We want to get right to it. Whereas Afuke Yoma, when Shabbos is ending, we don't want to make Havdalah right away, right? Right? The more we can delay it, the better, so that it shouldn't chas v'shalom look like we want Shabbos to end as soon as we can, and we just want to say Havdalah right away. No, rather when Shabbos is coming out, so first we'll say a bracha on the ayin, and we only make a bracha on the Havdalah after that. Okay, so we can say that this brisa is according to Beis Shammai, and the reason why you're making a bracha on the wine first and the Havdalah afterwards is because when it comes to Havdalah, you want to push the Havdalah off as far as you can, so that it doesn't look like you just want Shabbos to end already. Okay? So we said that if he comes home and he only has one glass of wine, so what he should do is he should just, save that glass of wine and use it for Birkas Hamazon and for Havdalah, right? He'll start with Birkas Hamazon, and then he'll, do the Havdalah on that same glass of wine afterwards. So implying that according to Beis Shammai, there's an inyan, there's a preference to make, to bench, to do Birkas Hamazon with a glass of wine. V'savi Beis Shammai Birkas Hamazon tuna kos, but does Beis Shammai really hold that Birkas Hamazon requires a glass of wine? But we learned in our Mishnah, there's like a million things in our Mishnah that we learned yesterday. We learned in our Mishnah, if they bring wine after the meal, right, before benching, but after the meal, what if there's only that one glass of wine? Which means that if you drink it now, you're not going to have it for benching. So Beis Shammai says, doesn't matter, you could drink right now on the wine, drink the glass of wine, and then you'll bench afterwards, you'll say Birkas Hamazon afterwards. And my lab, the Mevarechi lave, v'shasile, mistama, he's making a bracha on the wine, and then drinking the wine, which means that there's not going to be any wine left for benching, and that seems to be fine, according to Beis Shammai. They don't seem to have a problem with that. So we seem to see that Beis Shammai doesn't require wine for benching. So the Gemara says, lo, the Mevarechi lave umanachle. No, he's making a bracha on the wine, and then he's putting it down. He's not actually drinking it. Huh? I thought that somebody who makes a bracha, on wine or on any food, any birkas hanenin, would actually have to taste it. So the time lay, okay, fine. So beseder, so he tastes it. So according to Beis Shammai, if you bring wine at the end of the meal, make a bracha, have a little taste, and then save it for benching. Okay, seems a little funny, but okay. What about pagum, right? I thought that if you have a kosher bracha and you drink from the kosher bracha, you can no longer use it for a kosher bracha. So for example, one time where this comes up is like, let's say on Friday night, right? Somebody makes kiddush, and he makes kiddush on a glass of wine. He drinks a little bit from the wine. So now that wine is what's called pagum, which means if he then takes from, let's say he now wants everybody at the table to be able to get kos shel bracha, so he figures it's a good idea that he'll just take a little bit of the wine from his glass that he just drank from, that he also made kiddush on, and he'll pour a little bit into the bottle of wine. Then everybody can just pour from that bottle of wine into their glass, and it'll be like they have from the kos shel bracha. That's true, but it also means that nobody else can use that bottle of wine to make kiddush anymore, because you just poured pagum wine into the wine bottle and made the entire wine bottle pagum, and now you can't make wine on pagum wine. You can't make kiddush on pagum wine. So the solution to that would actually be not so complicated, which is that the way to unpagum wine is just to add more wine to it. So basically what you would do is you would make kiddush, you could drink a little bit from the glass, then what you could do is you can add from the bottle of wine into your kiddush cup, which means that the wine in your kiddush cup is no longer pagum, and then you could pour from your kiddush cup, i.e. your kos shel bracha, back into the bottle of wine if you want people to be able to pour it out for themselves from the kos shel bracha from the bottle, if that's what you want to do. But basically that's what pagum is. That once you drink from a cup or whatever, you can no longer make kiddush on it. But if you just add more wine to it, then it's fine. But it does come up in other cases. Just, it comes up every so often. You got to be careful just not to drink from it before you make a bracha on a kosher bracha. Anyways, so how could we say that he's making a bracha and then tasting it and then using it for Berachos Hamazon if by tasting it it's going to be pagum? So, and how would he be able to use it for a kosher bracha for Berachos Hamazon? So the Gemara answers the time le biyadeh, that no, he's just sticking his finger into the wine and then slurping it up from his fingers, and then therefore he didn't actually drink from the cup, so therefore it's not pagum. So this is what he does, right? So if they bring wine at the end of the meal, he basically makes a bracha, dips his fingers into it, slurps it off, and then he benches. Okay, seems like a funny little dance, but okay. But one second, but a kosher bracha needs to have a certain amount. I believe that amount is a revius. And if he sticks his fingers into it and then slurps the wine from his fingers, well, there's now less wine in the cup, which means that you're not going to have the proper amount of wine. So the Gemara answers, no, there was more than enough wine to begin with. So even when he sticks his fingers in there, there's still enough for the shear for the bracha. Yeah, but I thought it's talking about where there wasn't enough wine, right? It's talking about where there's only 1 cup of wine, and there's not enough for 2, and that's why we're figuring out how to chaparain, both benching and havdalah from 1 cup. So the Gemara says, well, trei lo haviu mechad nafish. Well, there weren't 2 cups of wine. There wasn't enough to make a separate bracha on benching and for havdalah, but there was more than for just 1, right? So there was more than enough for 1 cup, but there wasn't quite enough for 2 cups, and therefore even if you stick in your fingers into the wine, there's still going to be enough afterwards. Okay, fine. Batani Rabbi Chia, and here's the real knockout punch. But Rabbi Chia says, Beishamai omer mevarech al yayin v'shoseu v'achar kach mevarech al hamazon. 1 second. Beishamai says that you make a bracha on the wine that comes at the end of the meal, and you drink all of it, and then you bench. I.e., right, meaning the Mishnah had said, right, that if you only have, right, im ein sham ela oso kos b'shamai om mevarech al yain v'achar kach mevarech al hamazon. If all you have is 1 glass of wine, Beishamai says first you drink the wine and then you bench, which means that on the bench you're not going to have any wine. So what's the deal? So Rabbi Chia is clearly saying that according to Beishamai, you're drinking all the wine and then benching, so you don't need a kosher bracha for benching. Yet our brisa seemed to say that if it only has 1 glass of wine, then you should leave it and bench and then say Havdalah all on the same wine, which implies that according to Beishamai, you would need a kosher bracha for benching. So what's the deal? So the Gemara says, Elatrei Tanoi Valibud Beishamai. It's 2 Tanaim according to Beishamai. Okay. So you have 1 Tana explaining Beishamai as saying that you would have a kosher bracha for benching, and another Tana explaining Beishamai's opinion that you would not need a kosher bracha for benching. Okay, very nice. All right, friends. Here we go. Tumah and Tara. Okay, this is our first real deep dive into Tumah and Tara. So here's the thing. Not only is this talking about Tumah and Tara, this is talking about Tumah and Tara D'Rabbanan, which is basically added on to Tumah and Tara D'Oraisa. So let's talk for a few minutes about Tumah and Tara. What is it? So basically, there are a number of different levels of Tumah, I don't know, how do you define Tumah? There's pure, the opposite of purity, okay? I don't know, impurity? So, okay. The highest level of Tumah is what's called Avi Avos HaTumah, okay? There is only one example of Avi Avos HaTumah, and that is a dead body. That is the highest level of Tumah. The next level of Tumah is what's called an Av HaTumah. And an Av HaTumah is somebody who touches a dead body, right? So a dead body itself is an Avi Avos HaTumah. Somebody who touches a dead body becomes an Av HaTumah. Some other examples of Av HaTumah are a Metzora, a Zav, a Zava, a Nida. These are all examples of Av HaTumah, okay? Now, an Av HaTumah can be Metame Adam V'Kelim, okay? An Av HaTumah can be Metame a person, and it can be Metame objects, right? So if a Mitzora, for example, touches a person, that person will become Tameh for 1 day, right? For the rest of the day, he goes to the mikvah, and then the next day he's tahor. Now, as opposed to all these Avos HaTumah, it's much more complicated for them to become tahor. For example, if somebody touches a dead body, then he's got to he's got to wait 7 days, and he has the sprinkles the water mixed in with the ashes of the paraduma on day 3 and day 7, right? If you have a tsaras, he's got to go away for like basically at least like 2 weeks, and Zav and Zava, Nida, like all these people, like it's not, you have to wait a week, you have to have a week without seeing any Ziva, like all sorts of complex things. Whereas if any of these avatumas touch a person, so that person will become tameh, and there are other ways to transfer tumah as well, but let's just stick with touching. So then that person will become tameh until the evening, goes to the mikvah, and then tar by the next day. A kli either would have to go to the mikvah, or if it's earthenware, you'd have to break it, whatever. So now, great. So you have this avatuma, he touches a guy, that guy becomes a rishon latuma. Now, if he, when he's a rishon latuma, touches ochlin umashken, he touches food or liquids, so then those foods or liquids become a sheni latuma. They become it's called a sheni latuma. Fine. And then a sheni latuma can be metame either truma or kachim, which means that if let's say, so this avatuma touches epis, an apple, that apple becomes a sheni latuma. If that sheni latuma then touches some truma, that truma becomes a shlishi. And when it comes to trumas, then it ends right there. It's called what's pasul, right? It can't be metame anything else. The truma becomes a shlishi, and that's done. When it comes to kachim is, for example, like a korban. So let's say a korban shlamim. Let's say you have meat from a shlamim, and this tamei apple, which is a sheni latuma, touches the kachim, so that will become a shlishi latuma. And if that kachim then touches, let's say, another shlamim, then it will make that a revi latuma, and it ends over there. In a nutshell, that's basically how tuma goes from level to level. Now, it can only be, tuma can only, let's say, be mitame what's below it but not above it. So for example, or not even on the same level. So let's say you have a person who is an avatuma, okay? So let's say you have mitzora, and the mitzora touches a person. That person becomes a rishon latuma. If that person touches another person, he won't be able to make that person tameh, because rishon latuma can only be mitame ochlin umashkin. It can't be metame other people. And also, if you have this apple that becomes a sheni, it won't make other food tameh. It'll only make truma and kachim tameh. And if it touches a person, that person won't become tameh, because a sheni latuma is not able to be metame adam v'kelim, people and objects. Great. That's tuma de oraisa. Now, in order to understand our Gemara, we have to also understand tuma de rabbanan. Now, there are a few things we have to understand here. Number one, the Rabbanan, the rabbi said that yadayim are shniosheim, right? Your hands have a default status of being a second degree of tuma, a sheni latuma. Okay, now, which means that stam, your hands are sheni latuma, and that is that. So therefore, you have to wash them in order to make them not sheni latumas. Now, I don't understand why washing your hands would get rid of that tuma. Like, wouldn't you have to go to the mikveh or something? But apparently, washing your hands would be enough. Now, maybe because it's just the Rabbanan. Next, the Rabbanan also made a gezerah that if basically any vlad hatuma, right? So if your hands or a sheni latuma were to touch water, liquids, that liquid becomes a rishon latuma. Okay, so if my hands touch water, right? My hands that have a default status of sheni latuma touch water, that water becomes a rishon latuma. Okay, the same thing would apply if an avatuma or a rishon latuma were to touch water. It would become a rishon latuma as well, right? Basically, the only thing I don't know about is if a dead body were to touch water, would that become an avatuma or a rishon latuma? I don't know the answer to that. But any other tameh thing that touches water, it automatically becomes a rishon latuma. Next, they also made a gezerah that even though in general a rishon latuma is not mitame adam v'kelim, right? Even though a rishon latuma, right, can only be mitame ochlin umashkin, they made a gezerah, however, that that this water that is a rishon latuma is able to be mitame adam v'kelim, because it's a gezerah, because if you have like a zav or a zava, right, or a mitzora, so their ma'ayanot, which means like their urine, their spit, things like that, also have a status of an avatuma. which means that as an avatuma, they can be mitame adam v'kelim, people and objects. Therefore, as a gezerah, to make sure that we don't make any mistakes with regards to like the bodily fluids of like mitzora, zav, zava, nida. So we make sure that all liquids, even if they're only a rishon l'tumah, are still going to be mitame adam v'kelim. And the same thing applies to a kli that is a rishon l'tumah. It will be mitame adam v'kelim as well as a gezerah of, let's say, the if a zav were to sit, or a mitzor were to sit on like a mattress, that kli would be an avatum as well, and it can be mitame adam v'kelim. Therefore, any kli that is a rishon l'tumah midrabanan is also able to be mitame adam v'kelim. I can't imagine that too many people understood that. This is like years worth of accumulated information that I've gathered. I think that this is the first time that I ever understood this Gemara, and I've learned this Gemara a few times, but the last time I learned it was probably like 9 years ago, and I have a lot more Tumah and Tara experience over the last 9 years. I think it's probably the first time I really understood this Gemara. Wow, that's a lot of information. But now that I've kind of just said all of it at once and like did like a brain dump on you guys, let's actually look at it inside, and maybe it'll be make more sense in context. So here we go. So first wide line of the Gemara, Anun Beis Amud Aleph. Beishamai omrim v'chulei. Says Beishamai, Taner Rabbanan. Beishamai om noten li adayim v'chakach mozgin es hakos. So as the Mishnah said, according to Beishamai, first you would wash your hands, okay, and then afterwards you would drink the cup of wine that you have before the meal, right? Because they used to drink a cup of wine before the meal. So according to Beishamai, first you would wash your hands and then you would drink that cup of wine. How come? She'im ata omer mozgin es hakos tchila. Because if you would say that first they would kind of pour and drink the cup of wine before they had washed their hands, right? Well, remember, your hands have a default status of midar abanan. This is all midar abanan pretty much, right? So your hands, midar abanan, have a default status of being a sheni letuma, okay? So gzera, we're concerned, shema yitma'u mashkin she'achore hakos mechamas yadav. So remember, if your hands have a default status of being a sheni l'tumah, a second degree of tumah. Now, we also said that if your hands that are a sheni l'tumah touch liquids, those liquids will be a rishon l'tumah. So if there is going to be any liquids on the outside of the cup that you're holding, so that liquid will become a rishon l'tumah, midar abanan, v'yachzu v'yitmeu es hakos. And then, as we said, also midar abanan, liquids that are rishon l'tumah are going to be mitame kelim, right? So basically what will happen is your hands that are sheni l'tumah midar abanan are going to be mitame any liquids that are on the outside of the cup to make them a rishon l'tumah midar abanan, and then midar abanan a rishon l'tumah is able to be, liquids that are rishon l'tumah are able to be mitame kelim, so it'll be mitame then the cup. So basically, from your hands, it'll touch the liquids that are on the outside of the cup, which will then be mitame the cup. And according to Beis Shammai, you're not allowed to drink from a cup whose outside is tameh, even though the inside of the cup is tahor and the contents of the cup are tahor. Beis Shammai says that you're not allowed to use a cup that is tameh. Okay, so therefore Beis Shammai says, wash your hands first so that your hands are clean, and you don't have to worry about being mitame the cup via the water. V'litmu yadayim l'kos. So the Gemara asks, why don't your hands that are sheni l'tumah just be mitame the cup immediately? So the Gemara answers, because yadayim shniosein, right? Because yadayim are sheni l'tumah, ve'en sheni osa shlishi b'chulin el aydei mashkin. And the only way that a sheni would be able to make a shlishi b'chulin, I wonder why he's calling it a shlishi, because it's really going to be making it a sheni, I think. That's actually weird. But it could just mean that it's making it like it's transferring tumah or something. But that's weird that he calls it a shlishi. Well, unless... Yeah, I don't understand why it would be a shlishi. Yeah, shlishi is never... A chulin is never a shlishi. It probably just means that it doesn't transfer tumah. I assume that that's what it means. So, yeah, because chulin will never be a shlishi. Yeah, I have to assume that that's what it means. And so the reason why your hands are not directly being mitame the kli, the kos, are because your hands are a sheni, and a sheni doesn't make another sheni, right? The only way that it can be mitame the kos is if it touches the liquids, and then the liquids midirabanan become a rishon, and then midirabanan, the liquids that are a rishon, are going to be matame the kli to make it a sheni. But your hands that are a sheni can't directly be matame and make another sheni. Okay, zeo. So that is the opinion of Beis Shammai. Okay, therefore you wash your hands first. Your hands are clean, and therefore if your clean hands touch the liquids are going to remain clean. The cup is going to remain clean. That is Beis Shammai's solution. Beis Hillel say mozgen es hakos v'achar kach noten liyadayim. And Beis Hillel says no. First you pour the cup of wine, and then only afterwards you wash your hands. Okay, and that is because Beis Hillel says that you're allowed to use a cup whose outside is tameh, right? Therefore, so we're not concerned that maybe it'll be matame the cup, because you're allowed to use a cup whose outside is tameh as long as the inside is tahor. And your hands are already tameh because they're sheni l'tuma. So therefore, there's no problem using your hands that are by default a sheni l'tuma to hold this cup, which could theoretically be tameh on the outside, because according to Beis Hillel, all that stuff would be okay. Whereas whereas if you would first wash your hands, well, since you could theoretically be using a cup that is tamei on the outside, well then gezerah shema yitam'u mashkin shebiyadayim machmas hakos. Well, then we're concerned that maybe the cup that you're using is going to be tamei. It's going to be a sheni l'tuma, and then it'll be matame whatever liquids are on the outside of the cup to become a rishon l'tuma. Okay, and then midrabanan this mashkin that is a rishon l'tuma is going to be matame your yodayim and make them tameh, which would basically make your washing of your hands null and void, because beforehand they had a default status of being a sheni l'tuma, and then if the cup they're using is tameh, it'll be matame the water to be a rishon, which will then touch your hand and make them a sheni once again, which means that basically your washing your hands was basically pointless, right? Again, right, I don't know if I made this clear, but the water on your hands, meaning after you wash your hands, if you didn't dry them, enough, so then there might still be liquid on your hands, and that liquid can become tummy from the cup, which will make your hands tummy. V'nit me kos liyadayim. So the Gemara says, well, why doesn't the cup itself, which is a sheni l'tuma, just make your hands tummy directly? And the Gemara answers, ein kli matame adam, because kalim, which are sheni l'tuma, are not going to be able to be matame people. Right? The only way they can be matame the hands are if they make the mashkin first a rishon, and then the rishon will be matame the hands. V'niten me lemashkin shebesocho. Why aren't we concerned that if the outside of the cup is tameh, well then the contents of the cup, the wine that's in the cup will become tameh? So hacha b'chli shenidmu achorav b'mashkin askinan. Here we're talking about a kli whose outsides are tameh. Detocho tar v'gabo tameh. That the inside, that the contents of the cup are tahor, but only the outside of the cup is going to be tameh. The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, kol shenidmu achorav b'mashkin achorav tmeim tocho ve'ogno ve'ozno v'yadav tehorin. Okay, and because we learned in the Mishnah in Kalim that when you have a cup, that the outside of the cup became tameh by way of mashkin, right? So let's say you have your hands are by default a sheni l'tuma midrabanan. They then touch the water on the outside of the cup. The water on the outside of the cup becomes a rishon l'tuma. It's then matame the cup midrabanan. So it's only matame it on the outside. However, tocho, its contents, ve'ogno, or even the inside of the cup and its contents, ve'ogno, its lip, the lip of the cup, ve'ozno. If you think of like a pot, for example, that like a soup pot that you pick up with two handles, those two handles are what's called its ears. V'adav, if you think about like sort of, I think what certain English speakers would call a saucepan. Basically, it's like a pot with like one handle, so that's v'adav, tahor, and all those things are tahor. And as Rashi points out, because this is we're talking about tumah d'Rabbanan here, right? Of course, again, all this tumah that we're talking about is midrabanan. Your hands are sheni midrabanan. They touch the liquids, which then become a rishon midrabanan. It's then matame the kli midrabanan. So to make a heker, to make a distinction between kalim that contract tumah that are midoraisa versus kalim that contract tumah midrabanan, they say that since only the outside, the tumah only touched the outside, then only the outside of the pot is tameh. Whereas if it was tumah midoraisa, for example, if a mitzora were to touch this same pot, then the entire pot would become tameh. But to make a distinction between deoraisa tumah and midrabanan tumah, they say that only the outside is tameh, but the inside remains tahor. However, nitma tocho, nitma kulo. However, if the inside of the pot of the kli were to become tameh, well then the entire kli is tameh. Woo! Okay, there we go. So that is the machlok. Don't worry, there's more. But that's basically the machlok between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, right? Beis Shammai says that first you got to wash your hands and then you drink the wine, right? Because we're concerned that if your hands are tamei, they can be metame the cup. And according to Beis Shammai, you can't use a cup that's tamei. According to Beis Hillel, you can use a cup that's tamei. Therefore, we say first drink from the cup, because even if it's tamei, it doesn't matter. We're more concerned that if your hands are already washed, the tamei cup might be metame your hands. So just drink the wine and then wash your hands before eating your meal. But what exactly is the machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel? So Beis Shammai savi also l'shtamish b'chli shnitmu achor b'mashkin. Beis Shammai is concerned that it's forbidden to drink from a cup that the outside is tamei. That the outside of the cup became tamei through mashka, became the sheni that we've been talking about. Gezer mishum nitzotzos, because we're concerned that maybe some of the wine from inside of the tamei kli will get on the outside. So now you have liquids on the outside of the cup, which will then become a rishon, and they could theoretically be metame your hands if they were clean at the time. So therefore, to avoid that situation, they just say just never use a cup that is a sheni l'tuma, right? And therefore, wash your hands first. Your hands will be clean, and if there's any liquids on the outside of the cup, they'll be clean, and the cup itself will be clean. All good. And therefore, Beis Hillel is concerned that maybe your hands will become tamei by way of liquids that might be on the outside of the cup that is tamei is not a concern, because according to Beis Shammai, you're never going to have a cup that is tamei. Beis Hillel says that you're allowed to use a kli whose outsides became tamei by way of mashkin, i.e. this midrabanan sheni l'tuma kli. Therefore, right? So amay nitzotzos lo shchiche, right? Because they're not concerned about Beis Shammai's, concern, which is that if your hands were to be tahor and you're using a kli that is tamei, maybe the contents of the cup will get on the outside and then they'll make your hands tamei. According to Beis Hillel, that's not really very common. Therefore, you don't have to be concerned about that. Therefore, there's really no problem drinking from a cup whose outside is tamei, because they're not going to that cup is not going to be directly metame your hands anyways, and liquids getting on the outside is not so common. But v'ika lemecha shamit mumashin shebiyadayim machmasakos. However, according to Beis Hillel, there is the concern that if you first wash your hands, okay, and then your hands are still a little bit wet, well then certainly the kos, which is a sheni l'tuma, will be metame the liquids that are on your hand, to be a rishon l'tuma, which will then be metame your hands to be a sheni l'tuma al midrabanan davar acher. Beis Hillel gives another explanation for why they say to wash your hands after you drink the wine, because tekef nentilas yadayim suda, because in any event you should be washing your hands immediately before you eat the meal, not to be washing your hands and then drinking wine and then having your meal. My davar acher, how come Beis Hillel had to say davar acher? How come they had to give another reason for how come they say to drink wine and then wash your hands? Why wasn't this whole tuma and tara reason enough? Why did they have to also say because tekef and tilas yadayim suda? So achika amar do the Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. This is what Beis Hillel was saying to Beis Shammai. The didchu da amrisu also the shtamish b'chli shachor of tmein, right? The gazvina mishum nitzotzos. That according to you Beis Shammai, that you say that you're not allowed to use a kli whose outside is tmein, because we're concerned that maybe some of the contents might get on the outside, and then if your hands are tahor, they'll become tamei through the mashkin. So afilu achi ha'adifa, it's still better to only wash your hands after drinking the wine, because the tekef, the netilas yadayim suda, because you want that immediately after you wash your hands, you get going with your meal. Therefore, better to wash your hands after you drink your wine for that reason. Wow. Woo! I hope you guys got that. Feel free to ask any questions you want in the WhatsApp group. I'm happy to answer. The thing about Tumah and Tara is that it's not really that conceptually concept. It's just a lot of complicated. It's just a lot of rules that you have to memorize. And once you get the rules memorized, then everything just makes sense, and there's no exceptions, right? Everything just kind of makes sense, but there's just lots of rules to memorize. So if you have any questions, I'm sure that there are probably many people that have many questions. Please, feel free to ask whatever you want. I will answer them. Okay, well, this was part A of Tuma and Tara for the page. Now we move on to part B of Tuma and Tara. But the concepts remain the same. So hopefully, if you got this part, then hopefully you'll get the next part. So Beis Shammai says that you're going to, after you wash your hands before the meal, you dry your hands with the towel, and then you leave the towel on the table. Okay, and that's what you're going to use throughout the meal. Beis Hillel says that after you wash your hands before the meal, you dry your hands, and then you put the towel on your cushion, and that's where you're going to leave it throughout the meal and use it. Tanu Rabbanan, Beis Shammai Omrim, Beis Shammai says Mekaneach yodav b'mapo manicha l'shulchan. Beis Shammai says that you dry your hands with your napkin, and then you leave that napkin on the table. Shem ata omer ala keses, because if you're going to say like Beis Hillel that you're going to leave your napkin on the cushion, so the concern is that maybe the keses, maybe the cushion that you're sitting on is tameh, and then the liquids that are on the napkin will become tameh by way of the cushion. They'll become a rishon l'tumah, and then and then when you go to dry your hands with that napkin, the water that became tameh from the cushion will be tameh your hands, and they don't want that. Why don't we just say that the cushion will be matame the napkin directly? Ein kli matame kli. As we learned, a kli, which is a sheni l'tumah, is not going to be matame another napkin to make another sheni l'tumah. V'nitmaye keses legavra. Let's be concerned that maybe the cushion should be matame the person. Legavra gufe. Ein kli matame adam. Well, also a kli is not able to be matame a person. A kli that's a sheni is not able to be matame a person. Okay, therefore, the only thing that we're concerned about is that maybe you're going to put the napkin on the cushion. The cushion is mitame the water on the napkin to be a rishon, which will be mitame your yadayim. Beis Hillel omrim ala keses. Beis Hillel say put the napkin on your cushion. Shemata omer ala shulchan, because if you put the napkin on the table, we're concerned that if the shulchan is a sheni l'tumah, well then maybe the water that is on the napkin that you use to dry your hands will become tummy from the shulchan, and then they might touch the food and make the food tummy to be a sheni l'tumah, and therefore don't put it on the table, rather put it on your cushion. Vilitma shulchan la'ochlin. But then maybe, why can't the table just be matame the food directly? Shebisocho, the food that's on the table. Hacha b'shulchan sheni askinim, because here we're talking about a table that is a sheni l'tuma, vein sheni osa shlishi b'chulin ela al yedei mashkin, and the only way that a sheni can transfer tuma to chulin, right? Because remember, ochel becomes a sheni l'tuma when it's touched by a rishon l'tuma, right? Now, this table that's a sheni l'tuma isn't matame ochlin umashkin, but the way that it can be matame ochlin umashkin is if it touches liquid, that liquid becomes a rishon l'tuma, then it'll be matame the food to be ochlin umashkin, and that is why Beis Hillel says that we're concerned that if you put the napkin that you dried your hands with on the table will be matame the mashkin can be matame the ochlin, and then you'll have tummy food. Fine. Vein sheni also shlishi b'chulin ela yedei mashkin. Fine. But my kamiflige, what is the machlokas? What's the source of what's the key or the core of the machlokas between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel? Beis Shammai sabi ashur l'ishtames b'shulchan sheni gzerim mishum ochlei truma. Beis Shammai says, well, you're not really allowed to use a shulchan, a table that is a sheni l'tuma in the first place, because we're concerned about people who are eating truma, right? Kohanim, if they're eating truma, well, a sheni is able to make a shlishi when it comes to truma. So if you have kohanim that are going to be eating truma and they put the truma on the table, well, that truma will become tameh, and that's a big problem. So for that reason, Beis Shammai says we're never going to use a table that's a sheni l'tuma, and therefore they say put the napkin that's wet on the table, because the table is going to be tahor and there's nothing to worry about. Whereas Beis Hillel says you're allowed to use a shulchan, a table that is a sheni l'tuma, because ochlei truma is reasoning, because ochlei truma are very they're very on top of things, right? They're very on top of making sure that the truma remains tahor and stuff like that. Therefore, we don't have to be concerned about people eating truma and their truma becoming tameh. Therefore, you're allowed to use a table that's a sheni l'tuma, and therefore they're concerned that if you put your napkin on the table, the table could be matame the liquid on the napkin, which can then be matame the food that's on the table. Davar acher, Beis Hillel gives an additional reason, which is ein netilas yadayim l'chulin min haTorah. We don't have a precedent for netilas yadayim for food. We don't have ein netilas yadayim l'chulin min haTorah. We don't have a precedent for netilas yadayim, exactly, for eating just regular food, exactly, midoraisa, right? This whole thing about, hands being shnios, sheni latuma, and just having this default status of tuma that we're trying to prevent is not midoraisa, right? That's entirely midorabanan. Yet we do in the Torah have a concept of midoraisa, food becoming tameh. So my davar acher, what's the deal with this davar acher that Beis Hillel says? Hachi kamidu Beis Hillel b'shami. This is what Beis Hillel is saying. B'shami v'chitemu ma'ishna gabi ochlin dechashinan u'ma'ishna gabi yadayim delo chashinan. How come, according to Beis Hillel, right? If they had to take their pick between putting the napkin on their cushion and then the water on the napkin becoming tummy from the cushion and then the water being the tummy of your hands, what the hell is going on outside? Versus you're putting the napkin on the table, and then the water becoming on the napkin becoming tummy from the table, which would then be tummy the food. So if they have to choose between your hands becoming tummy versus the food becoming tummy, they'd prefer to avoid the food becoming tummy. Therefore, they say put it on the cushion. So Afilu achi ha'adifa, better that your hands should become tamei rather than the food become tamei. Because washing your hands for chulin, to make sure that your hands are clean in order to eat chulin, is not mida oraisa. Okay, mutav shitamu yadayim de'leislu ikar mida oraisa, va'yitamu ochlin de'islu ikar mida oraisa. Better that your hands, which don't have a precedent mida oraisa, better that they should become tamei rather than food, which does have a precedent mida oraisa for becoming tamei. Better, we'd rather prevent that. Whew. Okay, well, we're done with Tumentara. I think that's it. I think it's just basically self-contained to that one Amud of Gemara, and I think we're done. I don't think it comes up anymore for the rest of the Masechta. I think for maybe like a month or so. I think in Gemara and Shabbos it comes up again. I think in the first parak or something. But until then, we're not going to have Tumentara for a little bit, so that's good. Well, depends how you define good. So according to Beis Shammai, what you would do is you would first clean up the area where you were eating, right, including cleaning off the table, and then you are going to wash mayim achronim. Whereas according to Beis Hillel, you could wash mayim achronim first and then clear off the table. So Tanu Rabbanan. So according to Beis Shammai, first you're going to clear off the table, get rid of all the bread, and then you are going to wash mayim achronim. Because if you say that first you're going to wash mayim achronim, well then what's going to happen is the mayim achronim can get onto the food that's still on the table. So you might have a kazayas of bread on the table, and then that kazayas of bread will basically get ruined from the mayim achronim, and it's going to be hefsid ochlin. Okay, skip to the next line where it says Beis Hillel Omer. Beis Hillel Omer mishamish tam l'chachamu notal perun sheish boyan kazayis umaniach perun she'en boyan kazayis. Right? Beis Hillel says, yeah, but if the waiter who's waiting on the table is a Talmid Chacham, well then he'll remove any pieces of bread that are kazayis big. In which case anything left on the table will be less than a kazayis, and if water gets on them and ruins anything less than a kazayis, it's not really a big deal. So therefore you can wash mayim achronim first before clearing off. Meseirele Rabbi Yochanan. This opinion of Beis Hillel supports Rabbi Yochanan. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Perun she'en boim kazayis mutar la'avdom biyad. That Rabbi Yochanan says that pieces of bread that have less than a kazayis, you're allowed to, destroy it. It's no problem, right? If it's a kazayis and you have to treat it with respect, you can't throw it out. You can't just destroy it. But if it's less than a kazayis, it's okay. But my kamiflage, what is the machlokes between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai? Beis Hillel savir also the shtamish b'shamish amaretz. So Beis Hillel says that you're not allowed to use a waiter who is an amaretz. And therefore, by memela, you're going to have your waiter is going to be a Talmid Chacham, and he's going to remove the pieces that are kazayis from the table. And therefore, you can do mayim achronim first, and whatever's on the table, if it gets ruined, it's not a big deal. And Beis Shammai says you're allowed to use a waiter who is an amaretz, and therefore, there might be pieces on the table of bread that are the size of a kazayis, and they can become ruined by the mayim achronim. So better to first clear the table and then do mayim achronim. Amar Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina, Amar Rav Huna, says Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina in the name of Rav Huna, b'chulei pirkin halacha k'Beis Hillel, that this entire parak, all these differences between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, we always pass them like Beis Hillel, bar mehad halacha k'Beis Shammai. The only exception being this one that we actually make an exception to the rule and paskin like Beis Shammai here that you're allowed to use a waiter who is an Amma Aretz, and therefore there might be pieces of bread on the table that are the size of a kazayas, and therefore you should first clear off the table and then do my machronim. Rabbi Oshaya masni ipcha uvanam elacha Beis Hillel. Rabbi Oshaya actually learns the opinions of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel in the Mishnah the opposite, in which case Beis Hillel is the one who says that you're allowed to use a waiter as an Amma Aretz, and therefore the halacha is like Beis Hillel, that first you would clear off the table and then do my machronim. Beis Shammai omrim ner umazon v'chulei. Beis Shammai says that first you make a bracha on the candle and then you make a bracha on the benching, etc. Rav Huna bar Yehuda ikla levei Rava. So Rav Huna bar Yehuda one time visited Rava. Chazei leRava devarach b'samim bereisha. And Rav Huna bar Yehuda saw that Rava was first making a bracha on the besamim and then making a bracha on the candle, which is actually what we do. So Amalei. So Rav Huna bar Yehuda said to Rava, Michdei Beis Shammai Beis Hillel amar lo plige. That 1 second. So he was thinking about our Mishnah here at the beginning of the 8th parak of Berachos, that Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel both agree that you make a bracha on the candle. That's the first thing that you do, right? And then the besamim comes later. So that's not, as we learned in our Mishnah, Beis Shammai omim ner umazon besamim v'avdala. That Beis Shammai say you make a bracha first on the candle, then Berachos hamazon, then besamim, then avdala. Beis Hillel omim ner uvesamim mazon v'avdala. That first make a bracha on the candle, and then immediately afterwards on the besamim, then Berachos hamazon, and then avdala. But they both agree that the first thing is the candle. So Rav Huna bar Yehuda was confused. Why is Rava first making a bracha on besamim? So Ani Rava, so Rava answered, Ani Rava Basrei, so Rava answered him, Zo div Rabbi Meir. He answered Rav Huna bar Yehuda that what you're quoting to me is the Mishnah, the Machlokas Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, according to Rabbi Meir. Avo Rabbi Yehuda Omer, but Rabbi Yehuda says, Lo nechliku Beis Shammai Beis Hillel ala mazon shu batchila val avdala shu shei basof. That, but Rabbi Yehuda says that Beis Shammai Beis Hillel agree that the bracha on that Berachos hamazon comes first, and that avdala comes at the end. Ama nechliku ala ma'or val besamim. The only machlokas between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is when it comes to ner and besamim. Beis Shammai om ala ma'or v'achar kach besamim. The Beis Shammai says that first comes the bracha on the ner and then the besamim. Beis Hillel besamim v'achar kach ma'or. And Beis Hillel says that first you make a bracha on besamim and then you make a bracha on the candle. V'am Rabbi Yochanan nagu ha'am ki Beis Hillel alibud Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yochanan says that the minhag ha'olam is to do like Beis Hillel according to Rabbi Yehuda, which is to first make a bracha on the besamim and then on the ner, which is exactly what we do. Right? In Avdallah we say Bori Piagafen, then we say Bori Mine Besamim, then we say Bori Ma'oria Eish, and then we say Avdallah. Beis Shammai Ovim Shabara Chule. Beis Shammai says, right, Shabara Ma'or Ha'esh, and Beis Hillel says Bori Ma'oria Eish. Amar Rabba, so the Gemara changes that to Rabba, says Rabba, Bibara Kuliyam Lo Plige Debara Mashma. Everyone agrees that Bara Ma'oria or means, right, is past tense, which is what we want, because God, or right, as Rashi points out, the bracha that we make on the fire on Moshe Shabbos is connected the light that was created during the 7 days of creation, but the 6 days of creating the world, and then so the light was created on Saturday night. So therefore, we make the bracha on the fire on Saturday night, and this light was already created. So we want a nusach of the bracha that implies past tense. Ki plige, the machlokes between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai is borei, right? Beis Shammai sabre borei the asid the mivra. That Beis Shammai says that Bore implies the future, where Beis Hillel says Bore nami debara mashma, whereas Beis Hillel also says that Bore actually also implies past tense. Master Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef asks Akasha, Yotze or uvore choshech. 1 second. The pasuk says that God creates light and darkness. Yotze harim uvore ruach. That God creates mountains and wind. Bore hashamayim v'noteim. That God creates the heavens. I'm not exactly sure what noteim is, but the point is that God already created these things. So Bore also does create past tense. So why are we saying that there's a machlokas between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel about if Bore is future or past? Clearly, from these psukim, Bore is past tense. Sela Amar Rav Yosef. Rather, says Rav Yosef, Bibara uvore kuli amalo plige debara mashma. Everyone agrees that bara and Bore is past tense. Ki plige b'maor u'maorei. The machlokas between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is by maor and meorei. The Beis Shammai savre chad nahora ika benura. Beis Shammai holds that there's only one flame there's only one light in a flame. Therefore, you can say meor haesh, singular. Beis Hillel savre tuva nahora ika benura. Beis Hillel says that there are many lights in a flame, and as Rashi points out, aduma levana birak rekes. There's red flame, there's white flame, there's green flame, and therefore they say meorei haesh, the flames of the fire, plural. Taninam yachi amulem Beis Hillel Beis Shammai harbe meoros yesh beor. We also learn in the Brisa that Beis Hillel says to Beis Shammai that there are many lights in a flame. That was that. Woo! everybody, I hope everyone's doing good. That was a very difficult page. That is like a hard page. Lots of stuff there. Mostly the complicated stuff being Tuma Tara, especially because it's Tuma Tara D'Rabbanan, because that like goes against the rules of like Tuma D'Oraisa, which is generally what we like, go base, Tuma base on. So complicated page. I hope you guys are all doing okay. Your brains are okay. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm happy to answer. Also, and somewhere in there we learned about Pagum, which is an interesting halacha about like Kol Shel Bracha. We also learned some interesting stuff about the order of Havdalah, which is also cool, about making a bracha on fire on Motzei Shabbos, all that kind of stuff. I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.